Musab, your approach sounded radically different from the one we heard from earlier from Mutlaq. Because it didn't sound like your combination there resulted in an elimination of headcount. Is that correct?
Yeah, so this is a good point, actually, John. I mean, this is the first thing we said to people. There were some golden rules. We said, this is not a downsizing program. And we said, nobody will be disadvantaged in benefits at the end of the process. Okay. But we didn't say, your role will not change, or your title will not change, or your location will not change. We didn't say that stuff. We just said two things. We guarantee that this is not a downsizing program, and it's not, because we knew that we were going to grow anyway. And the growth will absorb a lot of the fat if it ever existed.
Even so, did you find that as the program was unrolled, people who were loyal to one of the entities found they couldn't stay inside the company? Did that happen?
The top 20 people today in Orpec were not among the top teams of any of the three companies.
Okay.
Okay, so this tells you about who felt okay on continuing. And I mean, we have about 3 or 4 out of 20 who were employees, maybe N-2 in the other companies. But we had a total team, a new team, 2010 onward. Some of the people felt that they were overwhelmed with the change and that they would like to perhaps go somewhere else. And some of the people felt that this job size, because the companies merged with each other, the size is bigger than the capacity and the capability, and they now will be happier to take a lower responsibility job in the new company because the new company is bigger. And we try to accommodate both options overall.
Yeah. The other thing I noticed was that you acted with urgency, but you took your time to gather information and gather opinion and get people involved. I think you mentioned up to 6 months worth, of time.
Yeah, so the first 3 months were for gathering information from people themselves. I mean, so we asked permission. Program Apple asked permission. We had some external people with us as well as some internal people from the shareholder. I think we were 12 or 15. And we went in and we started running all of these workshops, collecting ideas and views from people. Almost like invaded the three organizations, but I think we were somehow welcomed because there was some pain in some of the organizations, and people wanted to express out what their hopes for the future and for the change. So they found the process very, I would say, inspiring overall. And therefore, we were welcomed as a change catalyst, and rather than we were rejected because we didn't have an agenda. We did not make any PowerPoint presentations when we went in. We just had blank piece of paper on the wall, asked people to fill it up. Okay. And we wanted to hear them out. So I think that also helped.
Right. Okay. Mr. Suaminen, I think the biggest question we've been receiving through Slido is, what are the benefits of outsourcing engineering?
Well, I mean, of course, there are probably a lot of engineering available in different companies, but as we see it from our point of view is that, particularly talking about the topic which I was touching today, is that we can help the companies in their early development or their diversification, or maybe they need to change their production portfolio due to the consumer needs. So I think the greatest benefit is there that you can bring such differentiators like this technology co-development concept, for instance.
Okay, so it's, but you're not really replacing the in-house engineering group, are you? Because they're still there providing R&D support to what you're doing?
Yeah, actually, I mean, as I mentioned in the speech, there is typically a kind of a gap between the R&D departments and R&D laboratories, and then to the start of feed or the investment decision. So So you need people and you need tools and systems which bridges the R&D, and then you go into the, let's say, regular engineering side, which is directed into investments.
Okay. Also, if I understand how you work correctly, you're doing a lot of computer modeling. You're not building pilot plants.
Right.
What are the risks involved in that, of not going through a pilot stage when you're trying to really modernize a company or develop a new product?
Well,
does it introduce extra risk?
Well, in a matter of fact, no. I mean, of course, sometimes you face such challenges that you cannot avoid of having a pilot. In those cases which you are really going into completely new feedstocks and you don't know the phenomenon, you don't have the libraries, and you cannot satisfy your needs by laboratory scale tests. So in those cases, you would have a too big risk, and that means that then you will at least go to mitigate those risks into a certain level of piloting. But if you have sufficient laboratory tests and you can use the libraries which are existing, then there is no extra risk.
Okay. Musab, you talked a lot about quick wins, and the gains you were getting from quick wins looked quite astonishing. Were the quick wins a function of the fact you were bringing the companies together, or do they exist in any company? I mean, without combining the companies, could you have found quick wins in each of the divisions?
Yeah, I remember early in the process we had a workshop with young engineers, and I remember a young engineer talking to me, and I asked a question: how would you like to be recognized? Because we had an issue. We didn't know how to recognize people best. You know, is it monetary? Is it non-monetary, and so on? And she said to me that I'd be most happy if my ideas are implemented. This is the best recognition a company can give me, is that I can see that I actually can make progress. So we did ride on that, and we went around and asked people and said, can you please bring more ideas? And the first quick win we had, it's amazing because we had boundary between the refinery and aromatics plant. Yaqub will remember that. And the aromatics staff were using the canteen of the refinery, but because there was a boundary between them, they had to actually drive their cars out of the main gate of aromatics all the way to the main road, and then coming back at the gate of the Suhar refinery, get to the canteen, and then have lunch there, and then go back the same way. So the first quick win was, can we have a gate? No, there was a gate, sorry, there was a gate. Now I remember there was a gate. Then we said, just knock down the boundary wall. This was just an example of the potential of unleashing potential in the organization. Then people thought that we can buy insurance together, or we can change the catalyst in this particular unit, and we can use different shipping methodologies, and ideas kept flowing, and we set up a very simple system for assessment and implementation that did not involve management at all. This is not a management filtering or anything like that. If you have an idea and you have the power to implement, just go ahead and do it.
Okay. Did any of those implementations go crazily wrong? Were there occasions when quick wins turned into quick losses?
Yeah, so there were quick wins for sure, which did not achieve 100% of the expected results. Because what we have now is several units in the company which monitors the 111 quick wins, which ones actually realize on sustainable basis the benefits were being promised. And indeed, we have quick wins which did not sustainably realize the expected benefits, and sometimes almost zero benefits. But that did not stop us, no? This was where below the 20% threshold, the 80% did have overwhelming impact on the organization. So we just kept going. Very simple. And as a matter of fact, there's a standard way of announcing quick win. Is a standard announcement goes around every time we have a quick win. And even today, I mean, up to today, after 5.5, 6 years of implementing this, we still have quick win announcements in the organization almost once every 2 weeks.
Wow.
And we still call it quick win.
Mr. Suaminen, when you're developing a project which is going to be brought to market quickly, how do you decide who owns what, and how do you protect each other's IP?
Well, as I mentioned during my speech, that ourselves, for instance, we are quite liberal in this sense, and we understand that it's mostly our customer companies who are actually putting the most of the financing. So in the early stage, when we are discussing with the customer about such a development project, we agree very thoroughly that where, for instance, the IPR will stay. In most of the cases, our customers want to keep the IPRs, and that's fine with us. If that's not the case, then we might opt to take the IPRs. So it's basically an open discussion where it's looked at and it's looked from those let's say bases that who really finances the thing. And I also mentioned that in many cases when such a new technology is implemented with the production company, and they might take the advantage of that, but then they want to license further, then we might be acting as a licensor. So we are more taking our revenue from the service or then from the success factor and the success basis.
Now, you said right at the start of your speech that nobody should waste a failure.
Yeah.
What percentage of ideas make it through into commercialization generally? And I wonder how that compares with internal engineering departments.
Well, one of the things, of course, is that the management innovation process is very demanding. I think most of the people know that. It takes time, of course, to screen the ideas, and there are smarter people than me who have said that against one successful idea you need to kill 999. So that gives you an idea. So there are a lot of ideas, and it's good to have a lot of ideas. So you should have the step pretty low. And we are working with some consumer good companies who are also looking for new raw materials for their production, and we are actually helping them with our expertise to kill those ideas as early as possible, which we feel that will not have like right to leave. So from the very beginning, you can say the failure or the rate of the ideas which don't fly is far higher than those which will go further. But then usually when we have gone these initial phases and we have started the process, then if we can call it the failure, it relates mostly into cost. You know, there are a lot of optimism typically involved where people think that a new process unit or so forth will be pretty cheap. And there we will have usually discussions. Then suddenly you need to add a reactor or vessel or part there, and then you need everything there, and then the cost will go higher than expected.
Okay. There's a question just come up for both of you here. By the way, there were a couple of questions posed about specific processes. I would suggest you take those up with Mr. Suominen directly after the event. But to both of you, how is R&D different from development and innovation, from your point of view?
Go ahead.
Okay, if I go ahead first. Of course, it's a little bit of personal perspective, and maybe it's looked in different way in different companies. But like for us, R&D is doing like, you know, analytical stuff. They are testing the phenomenon. They are adding data to those parts where you cannot find literature. And of course, one part of the R&D also is to be innovative. But what we have seen is that the majority of the innovations, really good innovations, they come from the operation and from the broader audience, the companies. So, I mean, innovation or idea generation, innovation, and then R&D and further development, they are distinguished to different things. They are different phases.
Okay.
I have nothing to add. I think it's excellent explanation.
Have you noticed, though, an increase in innovative ideas come through the organization since you involved more people into the whole structure?
Yeah, I mean, you establish a culture. I mean, the culture of the organization becomes welcoming, open, engaging overall. So people do feel that their ideas have a life in the organization overall. And therefore, this we hope that continues in all departments and functions in the company, and that people actually find a fulfilling career at Orpic that way. Is because they think that my ideas get implemented statement actually happens in our organization.
Well, one question which is probably cultural from me. You mentioned that the three supervisory board members, to me they sounded like they're all politicians. Does that mean that policy can change rapidly? Or do they give you consistency?
Yeah, I think our shareholders are the government, and what we wanted to do is pick powerful decision makers from our shareholders, so we can make decisions timely in our process. If our shareholders were someone else, the same would happen, and I don't think we would link it to politics or anything else. It's just that we happen to be owned by the government, and we wanted three key stakeholders that will make things happen smoothly. I think overall, for a process of change like this, you can't afford having a slow decision-making process. You will need to set up this early in the process, understanding that the people come to the meeting, to the board meeting, or to the workshop, can actually make decisions once presented with rational explanation of why the change needs to happen. Okay. And that's quite important. So it just happened to be the three ministers I told you about.
Okay. How much of your own time is now spent in communicating with staff, would you estimate? Compared with communicating with customers. I'm imagining you've got your time split in two big communication exercises.
Yeah. By the way, John, I am leaving my job end of the year, so I'm handing over now to my successor, Ahmed Al-Jahdami, who's here as well. So after 6.5 years, I think I have learned a lot in the job and the change process overall. And answering your question about time spent, I always say I'm not spending enough time with the people of the company. The strength of the company, I mean, we have more than 80% of our staff below 35 years old. They will need to have continuous engagement with this leadership so they can participate effectively in the growth and performance of the company. And I always love the moments whereby I wear my uniform and in the field talking to people about the day-to-day challenges and aspirations as well. And I'd encourage that we all do this as leaders in our plants or units or whatever it is.
By the way, we very much hope you're staying in petrochemicals, and we'll carry on seeing you here. I think with that, we're slightly over time, though probably somebody will nod to me from the back. So I think we'd better wrap up now. So please join me in thanking our panelists. And thank you very much for your participation in this important session on turnarounds.